Wednesday, June 24th, 2009. Michael Jackson's final night on Earth. Only days earlier, he had been sent home from rehearsals, shivering, emaciated, and too sick to perform. But tonight, something was different. Witnesses say the King of Pop experienced a sudden, miraculous burst of energy. Lighting director Patrick Woodruff recalled that Michael was electric, performing as if he were 20 years younger. He was beaming with gladness. But while Michael was shining on stage, a darkness was playing out behind the scenes. According to Michael's son, Prince Jackson, a storm was brewing at the Jackson family home. While his father was at the arena, Randy Phillips, CEO of concert promoter AEG Live, was at the house, and he was not happy. Prince witnessed a heated conversation between Phillips and Dr. Conrad Murray. He described the executive as aggressive, even grabbing Dr. Murray by the elbow. It looked like coercion. Was Phillips demanding something that the doctor was resisting? When Prince called his father to tell him Phillips was there, Michael's response was gentle. He told his son to offer the man food or drink, but this gentleness masked a deep, paralyzing fear. Prince had often seen his father end calls with AEG executives in tears. He heard the words that would haunt the family forever. After Michael's death, detectives found post-it notes scattered around his room. Police dismissed them as poems or benign thoughts. But the messages told a different story. Notes passed to friends read, "The system wants to kill me for my catalog." To the police, Dr. Conrad Murray was the culprit, the man who administered the fatal chemical cocktail. But to the Jackson family, Murray was just a pawn. Joe Jackson in an archival audio/clip. To me, he's just a fall guy. There's other people I think involved with this whole thing. LaToya Jackson was even more specific. She told CNN that Michael knew he was going to be murdered for his music publishing catalog. Even Paris Jackson, Michael's only daughter, called the death a setup, describing it as a chess game she was still trying to play. Michael didn't just fear death, he feared a specific kind of death. In a chilling conversation with his ex-wife, Lisa Marie Presley, years prior, Michael stared at her intensely, said, "I am afraid that I am going to end up like him," the way he did. He was talking about her father, Elvis Presley. And according to this report, the parallels are impossible to ignore. Elvis died on August 16, 1977. The official story was heart failure. The reality was polypharmacy, a massive cocktail of 14 different drugs. The most toxic found was codeine, a drug Elvis was known to be deathly allergic to. The crime scene at Graceland was sanitized before police arrived. Medical notes disappeared. And just like Michael, Elvis was surrounded by handlers. But here is the twist many don't know. Elvis wasn't just a singer. He was a badge-carrying narc for the federal government, ready to testify against the Mafia in a fraud case known as Operation Fountain Pen. He died the very day he was scheduled to appear before a grand jury. Is it a coincidence, or is there a link? Enter Paul Gongaware, the co-CEO of AEG Live, the man running Michael's This Is It shows. Decades earlier, Gongaware worked on Elvis Presley's final tour under Colonel Tom Parker. He was there when the king of rock and roll died. 2 weeks after Michael's death, Gongaware sent an email responding to condolences. It read, "I was working on the Elvis tour when he died, so I kind of knew what to expect." He knew what to expect. In 2003, terrifying audio recordings of Michael surfaced. He sounds slurred, paranoid, and desperate. Michael Jackson stated, "I don't trust that man. We think he is Italian Mafia. Please help me with this. I need to get those funds so I can be away. They're trying to kill me." He spoke of the Italian Mafia. He spoke of a conspiracy of leeches trying to leave him penniless. He spoke of a sunscreen, a code word for protection money. The report suggests that June 25, 2009, was not an accident. It claims that Michael Jackson, the archangel of sound, was the victim of a syringe job, a hit carried out by a convergence of powerful interests. AEG, the music industry, and organized crime. Michael asked his producers at rehearsal, "You aren't going to kill the artist, are you?" 6 days later, the artist was dead. Before he died, Michael Jackson wasn't just paranoid, he was preparing. According to his former manager, Dieter Wiesner, Michael dictated a list of enemies, people actively seeking to destroy him. The list included lawyers, prosecutors, and media manipulators. But according to Vanity Fair's Maureen Orth, the list was topped by the biggest titans in entertainment. In 1995, Michael still publicly called David Geffen, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and Steven Spielberg his 3 best friends. He was wrong. By the mid-90s, these best friends had morphed into his most powerful frenemies. They formed DreamWorks, locking Michael out of deals, and, according to reports, even stealing his Boy on the Moon logo concept. Michael was hurt, betrayed, and seemingly oblivious to why the tide had turned so violently against him. The report suggests the root of this betrayal was personal. Very personal. It leads back to billionaire mogul David Geffen. Shauna Mangatal, a former receptionist at the management firm handling Michael, provides a crucial piece of the puzzle. She worked in the heart of the Hollywood machine. Years later, she asked Michael why he and David Geffen were no longer friends. Michael's answer was startling. He claimed Geffen had made a homosexual advance toward him, an attempt to kiss him, which Michael refused. According to Michael, the friendship was strained from that moment on. Michael had insulted one of the most vindictive men in Hollywood, and David Geffen does not handle insults lightly. To understand the forces arrayed against Michael, we must understand the world Geffen inhabited. The report refers to it as the gay mafia, or the Velvet Mafia. While controversial, industry insiders have acknowledged its existence for decades. Spy magazine called it a powerful gay tongue. Investigative journalist Mark Ebner confirmed it exists in hierarchical factions, with a reach that is mind-boggling. At the helm sat David Geffen. Surrounding him was a tight-knit group including manager Sandy Gallen and mogul Barry Diller. They described themselves as a family, operating with loyalty they compared to a socialist state. This family extended to Michael's own medical care. It was David Geffen who introduced Michael to manager Sandy Gallen, and it was David Geffen who introduced Michael to Dr. Arnold Klein, the dermatologist who would fuel Michael's drug dependencies for years. They were all connected. What happens when you cross this family? Just ask super agent Michael Ovitz. Once the most powerful man in Hollywood, he was dethroned by Geffen. Ovitz publicly blamed a shadowy Hollywood cabal, specifically the gay mafia, for engineering his downfall through rumors and press leaks. But professional ruin is one thing. The report highlights a darker story. Wall Street Journal reporter Tom King wrote a biography of Geffen titled The Operator. Geffen hated the truthful portrait it painted and vowed King would regret it. 3 years after the book's publication, the 39-year-old perfectly healthy journalist collapsed and died of a brain hemorrhage while on vacation. The message to Hollywood was clear, as Geffen's associate Howard Rosenman reportedly said, "If you're his enemy, well, you might as well kill yourself." If David Geffen was Michael Jackson's enemy, Michael was facing a man with immense power. But the report alleges that this power protected an even darker secret in the Hollywood underbelly, a secret involving children. In the late 90s, a company called DEN, Digital Entertainment Network, emerged. It was meant to be a streaming service for teens. Yet, it raised millions from enormous investors with almost no revenue. The investor list was a who's who of Hollywood power. It included X-Men director Bryan Singer, and it included David Geffen. The company was founded by Mark Collins Rector, a man later convicted of transporting minors for sex. Den operated out of a massive Encino estate, infamous for wild, drug-fueled pool parties, attended by Hollywood power brokers and teenage boys. Victims later described Den as merely a front for a sex ring. Lawsuits alleged that powerful men plied young, aspiring actors with drugs and alcohol. The report alleges that David Geffen was a regular guest at this estate. It further claims that director Bryan Singer, a fixture at these parties known for his own gatherings of young men, is Geffen's acolyte and protected by him. When the Den scandal broke, founder Mark Collins Rector fled the country. According to court testimony, he didn't just flee the law. He fled because he believed David Geffen and the gay Mafia were going to kill him to keep him quiet. This was the world Michael Jackson was up against, a world defined by ruthless loyalty, immense financial power, and terrifying secrets. Michael had rejected the advance of the king of Hollywood. He was on their enemies list. He was $400 million in debt, and he was worth more dead than alive. In the next chapter, follow the money, how the banks, the record labels, and the estate converged to ensure the king of pop would never be free. By 2003, the paranoia inside Neverland Ranch had solidified into a concrete reality. Michael Jackson wasn't just afraid of the shadows, he was naming them. According to his former manager, Dieter Wiesner, Michael began to dictate a list. A list of enemies. These were the individuals Michael believed were actively conspiring to destroy his career, his reputation, and perhaps his life. He wanted this list shared with his closest associates for protection. His names were specific. They included the illusionist Uri Geller, who had fatefully introduced Michael to Martin Bashir. They included Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, his one-time spiritual advisor. They included Sony Music head Tommy Mottola and the district attorney Tom Sneddon, who had led the charge in the molestation cases against him. But according to Vanity Fair's Maureen Orth, the list was topped by a much more powerful trinity. The very men Michael had once trusted implicitly. He was wrong. By the mid-90s, these best friends had morphed into his most dangerous adversaries. The betrayal was calculated. First, Spielberg crushed Michael's long-held dream of starring as Peter Pan, dropping his project in 1990 to make Hook with Robin Williams instead. Then came the formation of DreamWorks in 1994. Geffen, Katzenberg, and Spielberg, the titans of the industry, locked Michael out of the deal he was supposed to be a part of. And to add insult to injury, reports suggest they stole his logo concept, the boy sitting on the moon. Michael didn't see the knife coming until it was already twisted in his back. But why? What turned these powerful friends into what the report calls gay mafia? The answer, it seems, lies in a single night of rejection. Dr. Conrad Murray, the man convicted of killing Michael, told many lies. But there is one part of his testimony that rings true. He stated that Michael told him, his whole life, gay men had tried it on with him. Michael wasn't homophobic, but he was uncomfortable. He felt preyed upon. One of those experiences allegedly involved the billionaire mogul David Geffen. Shauna Mangatal was the receptionist for Sandy Gallen, Michael's manager and David Geffen's best friend. She was front and center in the exclusive enclave of dreammakers. In her book, she reveals the inciting incident of the feud. Years later, when she asked Michael why he and David Geffen were no longer close, Michael was candid. He told her that David had tried to seduce him. He attempted to kiss Michael, and Michael refused. From that moment, the friendship was strained. But in Hollywood, you do not simply strain a friendship with David Geffen. You create an enemy. And Geffen is a man who knows how to handle an insult. To understand the danger Michael was in, we have to understand the group he had offended. The press called them the Velvet Mafia. Spy magazine referred to them as a powerful gay tongue, a term usually reserved for secret criminal societies. Investigative journalist Mark Ebner confirmed it. Despite numerous denials, the gay mafia does exist. Behind that pink curtain is a power so far-reaching it's mind-boggling. At the helm sat David Geffen. Surrounding him was a family that operated with absolute loyalty. Sandy Gallon, Barry Diller, Calvin Klein. They vacationed together, they lived next to each other in Malibu, and they protected their own. Barry Diller described their loyalty as, quote, cradle to grave, just like a good socialist state. And this family had its tentacles wrapped around Michael Jackson long before his death. It was Geffen who introduced Michael to his manager, Sandy Gallon. And crucially, it was Geffen who introduced Michael to Dr. Arnold Klein. Dr. Klein, the dermatologist who would become Michael's primary supplier of narcotics. Klein was a proud member of this circle. He was Geffen's friend. He was a part of the family. The man treating Michael Jackson was loyal to the man Michael Jackson feared most. This group does not take prisoners. Just ask Michael Ovitz. In the 90s, Ovitz was the most powerful man in Hollywood. But by 2002, he had been destroyed. In a candid interview with Vanity Fair, a wrecked Ovitz blamed his demise on a shadowy Hollywood cabal, specifically naming the gay mafia led by David Geffen. But professional ruin is one thing. The report points to something far darker. Enter Tom King, a journalist for the Wall Street Journal. King wrote a biography of Geffen titled The Operator. Geffen initially authorized it, hoping to be immortalized. But when King began to uncover the truth, painting a portrait of a ruthless, vindictive manipulator, Geffen turned. He felt betrayed. He vowed that Tom King would regret it. He told friends that King would never write another book in this town again. 3 years after the book was published, while on vacation, the 39-year-old Tom King, described by colleagues as being in perfect physical health, collapsed and died of a sudden brain hemorrhage. The message sent through the Hollywood Hills was chilling. As Geffen's friend, Howard Rosenman, reportedly said, David will do anything for you if you're his friend. But if you're his enemy, well, you might as well kill yourself. If David Geffen was the king of Hollywood, what was his kingdom hiding? According to the report, the gay mafia was inextricably linked to a pedophilia crisis in the industry. Elijah Wood, the star of Lord of the Rings, told the Sunday Times that Hollywood is in the grip of a major organized child abuse epidemic. He spoke of vipers preying on young people at parties. Corey Feldman has spent years trying to expose a ring of elite pedophiles, men with connections to great power. And all roads lead back to a company called DEN, Digital Entertainment Network. In the late 90s, before YouTube, there was DEN, a company producing content for teens. It raised millions of dollars, despite having almost no revenue. Why would savvy investors pour money into a sinking ship? The investor list reads like a who's who of the Hollywood elite. X-Men director Bryan Singer, NBC president Garth Ancier, and David Geffen, who invested $250,000. The company was founded by Mark Collins Rector. DN operated out of a massive estate in Encino, known as the M&C Estate. This wasn't just an office, it was a palace of debauchery. Lawsuits filed by former employees and aspiring actors paint a horrific picture. They described the estate as a front for a sex ring. Kids-only rooms, pool parties where teenage boys were plied with alcohol, Valium, Xanax, and roofies. One employee recalled seeing teenage boys filing into a movie theater in the mansion, while bodyguards stopped the adults. The report alleges that David Geffen wasn't just a passive investor. He was a presence. He socialized at the estate, and his protege, director Brian Singer, was a regular. Singer, known for his own infamous pool parties filled with young men, is described in the report as Geffen's acolyte, his chosen replacement. When the den scandal finally broke and the lawsuits began to fly, the founder Mark Collins Rector didn't just lawyer up, he ran. He and his partners fled the country to Spain, hiding for 2 years before Interpol caught them. But here is the most telling detail. According to court testimony, Collins Rector didn't flee because he feared the police. He fled because he feared David Geffen. Under oath, his partner testified that Geffen had tried to buy the company, and when refused, Geffen threatened, "I'm going to take your business whether you like it or not." Collins Rector believed that the gay Mafia was intending to kill him to keep him quiet. This brings us back to Michael Jackson. The report posits a terrifying theory. Michael Jackson was not a child molester. He was a man who had stumbled into a nest of vipers. He had rejected their advances. He had threatened their power. The report argues that the gay Mafia, this network of powerful, interconnected men, projected their own crimes onto Michael. They used the media they controlled to brand him with the very sins they were committing in the Hollywood Hills. Michael Jackson was framed by the very ring of pedophiles he despised. He was on the enemies list of the most ruthless men in show business. He was surrounded by their doctors. He was managed by their friends. And as he told his son Prince, and as he told the world on those frantic tapes, saying, "It is a conspiracy. They're going to kill me." He knew who they were, and they knew that Michael was worth more dead than alive. We've exposed the personal vendettas. We've named the powerful enemies lurking in the shadows. But in Hollywood, hatred is just an emotion. Business is the motive. Michael Jackson was sitting on a gold mine worth billions, and he was surrounded by wolves who knew exactly how to bleed him dry. In the next episode, we follow the money. We uncover the predatory loans, the secret alliances with Sony, and the desperate financial trap that left the king of pop with only one way out. You do not want to miss Chapter 3, The Financial Assassination. If you believe the truth deserves to be heard, hit that like button to break the algorithm. Share this video with everyone who thinks they know the story, because they don't. And subscribe right now with notifications on, so you are the first to witness the evidence in the next chapter. The investigation continues, only here